I was just listening to two dogs like bark at each other. There's a dog over here and a dog over here, and um, it was like one of those classic conversations where like one person wants to talk and the other one clearly does not. Because this dog was like, "Hey man," and this dog just lost it immediately. Like, no, every day you try to talk to me and you just come at me with nothing. I've had enough. Oh, what, really, man? But today I have something good. Oh, really? Something good. You have something good to say. Go ahead, say it. Well, today I was just about to do this thing, and then, are you still there? Hello? 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 And the conversation just ended. I mean, I don't really know if that's how dogs communicate. Of course, they were barking, right? I just translated it for the folks at home. Welcome, everyone, to Nicky New News. I'm your host, Nick, and this is a variety show where we do all sorts of things. We go places. I tell stories about places I go and the things that I do, and also sometimes I sit here and talk about movies that I like and books, and or just share thoughts and ideas and goofiness. Lots of goofiness. All right, in today's video, we are going to look at the one and only from the Marvel Universe, the Widow herself, Black Widow, with Hawkeye coming to a streaming service near you. Well, actually just, Disney Plus, but finally we're getting Hawkeye, Solo. He should get a movie. I'm just saying, I'm one of them. He should, even if it's a, Black Widow, Hawkeye film, even though I don't know how you do that. Although, I will say, before we get too far in the Black Widow, my initial thoughts, okay? So initial thoughts before I even saw the film, which I saw the film when it came out. I got it right on Disney Plus. Thank you. But before it came out, I was considering what are they going to do with it? How are they going to do this movie, right? Like if you saw Endgame, spoiler alert, no more Black Widow. Because, and she sacrificed herself for the Soul Stone. So no more. So I really thought that this movie had to play into some sort of Soul Stone behavior. Like I thought, like even if we have to go to the past, I thought maybe like it would start off with like seeing the Soul Stone and like going into the Soul Stone, because now she's like sacrificed her soul to the Soul Stone. So maybe that's where like this story was like playing out, and that's like it's the Soul Stone trying to like help her like resolve her like issues of the past or whatever. That's what I initially thought. Clearly it was not, because I really thought there's no way that they're gonna go back to when before Endgame. You don't go once you do Endgame, you don't go back. But I guess they went back, and at first I was like, ooh, nope, okay, Marvel, you can do it. Like, I mean, again, if you've been here at all, Marvel, I'm always going to give it a 2 thumbs up. I mean, come on now. We're only talking about positive things over here. If it's not positive fun or making fun of me, I don't know if it's going to happen. So, that's what I thought. But this movie not only went back, it went back to right after Civil War. And I was going, what the what? But it made complete and total sense. So, I mean, without further ado, let's talk about Black Widow, right? I mean, because quite honestly, this whole movie sets up or helps set up Hawkeye, which we're about to see any day now. Come on, folks. One of you's excited about it, maybe more. So, and that movie does a great. Okay, the characters that get introduced into the Marvel Universe, I mean, a round of applause for sure. Okay, because And I think that's where we're just going to get into it. That's where I want to start. By now, if you haven't seen the movie, like, go watch the movie. I'm just going to talk about the characters and the fun stuff and just bounce around all over the place. So enjoy. But the characters. I mean, we can start with Black Widow, okay? Because she, is coming off of course, she defected from the Avengers from Civil War after she, stopped Black Panther from getting Captain America or Winter Soldier. And so now she's on the run because now she's, crossed that Sokovia Accords. So General Ross is after her. And of course, no. I mean, she's already gone. So, but then, right, we get a backstory. Well, the backstory happens first. But we get more into the Red Room and her backstory as like a kid. And she was on this like secret mission in Ohio where, they stole a bunch of stuff. Well, the family that she was with, the adults, stole a bunch of stuff. And we get introduced to her adopted fake younger sister who, is probably going to be a major role in Hawkeye if you watched the rest of Black Widow. I'll get to it. And that's where we get introduced to Elena, her, adopted, not sister-ish type dealio. And they run off to an adventure. And of course, Black Widow throughout the whole film, because even though at this, of course she's gonna come up against some some pretty good enemies in this film for sure. But she's already faced Loki and Ultron and her own Avengers team. So I wasn't really concerned that she was gonna get tossed around or anything like that. Because I mean, come on. Not only that, it's also brought into the Marvel Universe that she was genetically chosen to be Black. I mean, come on now. She is to be Black Widow. Let's make it real here. But I mean, still, all the action scenes are super fun, especially with her sister. When her sister rose up, oh my goodness, that is Black Widow 2.0 right there. That chick is lethal. She's also hilarious, and I think is going to be a great, she's going to be really cool to see, okay? I get she's not a replacement, that's not a thing, but as a up-and-comer to what comes after Black Widow, or if she picks up the mantle of Black Widow, I am all for it. She nailed it. And their relationship is also really cool throughout the whole film, and which is wonderful. And now can we go, I don't know why I'm going to ask you why I can move on from them, because I'll probably talk about them throughout more, but we're going to go to the next and awesome, the best character in this film for me, and hopefully, he's the best. The Red Guardian is by far the coolest character ever, okay? He does such an amazing job. I don't know why, because I watched the movie today again, but I was thinking to myself, okay, now that they've pulled off Fat Thor, they can pull off bigger superheroes, because I had no idea that they were going to, what's happening here? And it turns out that he's, the Red Guardian. And when we meet him again in the prison, which, again, probably the best scene ever, when he's just sitting there and he's just crushing people's hand, and he's talking about how he's fought Captain America, which is his whole bit. Throughout the whole film, all he cares about is that he fought Captain America, which doesn't really seem plausible, because the whole time that he would have been out and about, Captain America was frozen. So that's but he's I fought Captain. Even when he finally meets up with Natasha again, he goes, hey, come here. So what does your buddy say about me? Who are you talking about? Captain America, my arch nemesis. It's you don't have. Are you kidding me? What is this? You don't know. So, and then when he tries to put on the suit, and because all he wants to be is the Red Guardian. He just wants to be the symbol of a superhero for his country, and it is just so funny how he portrays that, because he's so prideful about it, and he just lacks all intelligence of like the emotional intelligence of what's going on in the room. I mean, he gets it, because he does get in those moments, like when he sings American Pie, I still melt, okay? Like, that song is now classically linked to Black Widow, and now classically linked to him, because dang, that gets me right now, okay? And he's just a lot of fun. The other character that I really want to discuss, and that I thought was just a really fun, and they did a really good job, I think, with this one, is the villain. Or not really the villain, but because she was being controlled. But Taskmaster, how they did Taskmaster, because in the comics, Taskmaster does basically the same thing. He's able to mimic the fighting abilities of anybody that he comes across. Right? He doesn't like gain their abilities or powers or anything. He just is able to mimic their fighting styles as soon as he sees them. That's why he's such a difficult opponent to face. And what's really cool is also, like, this time around, like, they put this one in like a armored suit, so it gives it a little like extra like strength and mobility and things like that, which only helps for scary and the badassery, because this person, like, they knew it all, and they did a really good job like nailing the fighting styles. Like, of course, you could clearly see Captain America with the shield. I mean, that was cool that she had a shield. It's a she, by the way, in this one. So, but it's really cool to see that she does Captain America. She has the shield. She does Hawkeye. For sure. We all see Black Panther, and of course we see Black Widow. There may have been one or two others in there, but for sure we saw those, and those. I mean, they made it kind of a big point. Like, clearly she took out a shield and was utilizing it just like Captain America, and then she also used the bow, just like Hawkeye would have. Precision, accuracy, all that stuff. And then we also see Black Panther when she fights the Red Guardian, because the Red Guardian kind of taunts her. I mean, he has no idea that he's just roar, and she's like, "Oh, okay, well, actually, I know this is Black Panther." And then we're like, "Oh, okay, that's awesome." And then of course she mimics Black Widow both at the beginning and towards the end of the film, which at the end of the film, that fight scene is crazy, because quite honestly, going back to Black Widow for a second, she literally, I think she holds back throughout the entire film. I mean, because almost everybody she faces is under somebody else's control. So she doesn't want to hurt anybody. So you can tell she clearly like holds back, even against Taskmaster, who is considerably skilled and took out the Red Guardian, a super soldier. Like, if Melina, the mom, didn't come in and step in, like, the Red Guardian was on a downward slope of not doing well fighting Taskmaster. But Black Widow, for sure, I mean, is one of the most incredible fighters in all. I mean, in the Marvel universe, for sure. She is incredible, and with who she's fought, like over the years and up until now, it's like no wonder that she does have some capacity to fight this person, because also all the techniques that he's using, that he's mimicked, she's learned from like firsthand. Like, Taskmaster may have watched and mimicked and has fought one of the Avengers, but she's not only been an Avenger, fought the Avengers, but have gone up against really, really big supervillains. So it was interesting to see their bout, and it was cool to see their abilities, but I was glad to also, like, it was plausible to see like why Black Widow could have won, and it's not like she won without loss. I mean, case in point, like, if on the ship there's a point where, of course, like, Taskmaster's like locked up, and she's like, "Oh, I gotta save." Black Widow's like, "I gotta save you, so I'm gonna unlock your thing. You're gonna come attack me. That's fine." She would have gotten beat up, because of course, like, Black Widow at this point has been beat up to by a whole team of Black Widows. Like, she has been through the ringer and now is about to fight Taskmaster, who's been like kind of resting for a little bit. It doesn't go well for her, but the shit falls through and Taskmaster falls through, so she gets a reprieve. But other than that, I mean, she of course holds her own throughout the thing. Relationship dynamic of family come into play, which I think is like super important for Black Widow, because I think realistically what this movie really does, other than set up Elena for Hawkeye and as maybe a Black Widow in the future, is it really like points to the fact of how Black Widow like kind of recommits to this idea of family. Because at the beginning of this, or when she kind of left the Avengers, I mean, she was kind of going out. So I think that kind of like helped double down on the whole family aspect and really bring about like how important like Endgame means, and really put the words behind like what she meant by like family and how important it is to her, and how she was able to find that family. Really kind of ties into this movie. I mean, those emotions really speak to how that kind of started and where that kind of foundation started getting built, I think. Or maybe that was the hope. I don't know. So that was really cool as well. And then any others? Of course, the ending. That whole, the ship like exploding and everybody like falling through the sky, and Black Widow like saving her sister, and Slash like fighting on a rooftop that's like falling through the nowhere. That was also sweet. So, final thoughts. What's up, Doc? Final thoughts was actually, I think it was a really good movie. Out of all the Marvel films, because of after what Endgame and where they were kind of putting this in, I really didn't have that, but like my hopes. I was gonna watch it, and I knew I was gonna love it for sure. But I was kind of there was a little bit. There was like a pinky outside the door. Okay, I'll give myself that much, because realistically, I would have loved this movie no matter what. But the fact that they really tied in the characters they brought up. Red Guardian was amazing. Elena was amazing. The diving into the Red Room was a lot of fun, and just a lot of the kind of the concepts and ideas that came out of there were really cool as well. So I really liked what they did. Makes me super excited for Hawkeye and to see what kind of a role Elena will play in Hawkeye and going forward, because she really solidified herself in the Marvel universe, and she's there. I mean, we're there, she's there, and I can't wait to see what happens with that. Thoughts and ideas as I was like watching the film as many times as I've watched it. This idea of control that's played out, taken from us, is really terrifying thought for a lot of us. I mean, I would think. I mean, I would be pretty terrified if my choice got taken away, and to see. It's one thing to be conditioned to kind of have that choice be taken away from you, but to see this like chemical do it, right? And you to imagine yourself like being conscious but having no idea if any part of you is actually you. And that's got to be the most terrifying thing ever. And so you think a lot about the idea of control and the choices we do and do not have. And in a lot of considerations, a lot of us feel like we're under some sort of like control, or we're put in these certain situations of control that have to dictate our actions, and our actions are no longer our own. And this movie really kind of brings that out, and an idea of like, what if we crank that all the way? Like, what if you let's make it, let's really showcase that idea of people's choice and the ability to make your own movements taken from you, and what that would really look like. And the idea that you would be able to be conscious enough to visualize what you would be doing, but have no willpower to change it, is a very terrifying thought. And it really makes you made me consider the idea of just like the little amounts of control, or the controls that we put ourselves in our own lives, and the choices we take away from ourselves because of that controlled environment we find ourselves in, that seem to dictate, oh, I have to do this, because if I don't do this, I don't, let's say, like, pay my bills, for example, right? Like, if I don't go to work and make money, I can't pay my bills. So, in that area of control, you might consider that your choices have been taken from you because you have to do X or you don't get to Y. So it was, really interesting to see that. Now, of course, on this level, it's played in a much more dynamic of a way between this aspect of control, right? Because it's not only in that duality that we might find it in. We find it everywhere, and we find that, in certain areas and in certain cases, the choices are so limited that people are under severe control. And it was just a really interesting concept to see played out within a film that way. And it kind of just made me, think about, just the ideas of control and the choices the control we put on ourselves and the limitations we put on ourselves to make choices to change that controlled environment. Because for a lot of us, it is just a controlled environment that we put ourselves in. And the control, whether it is, yes, you do need to make money to get a job, but do you need that specific job? And are you willing to make certain sacrifices to get out of that job to still make it to Y, but live a more choiceful life, a life that you're choosing to do? We hear so many times that, we hear it all the time. My choice was taken away. I had to do this. It was out of my control. And it really makes you think, like, what if your control was completely taken away and you didn't have that choice? And sometimes I think we forget how fortunate some of us are, and especially sticking to me. And I think that's what I want to keep bringing it back to, because I can't speak for anybody but myself. But for me, I started to realize, like, wow, just what types of controlled environments do I put myself in, where I make myself, I have to do this because of this. I want to do this, and I could still get this out of it, right, if I did this. But I know that I need to do this, or this is because of this control, I have to do it this way. And so I don't know, but it was an interesting idea and concept that kind of was pulled out of this movie. And that's what I really like about movies and books and things like that, is you can kind of pull out these ideas, and even if it has nothing to do with the film, right? Like, a lot of people are going to be like, well, I didn't see that at all. And that's totally okay, because not everything's for everybody. And when you see something, you're not going to get 100% of what you saw, and you're also going to interpret it in your own way. This was just my little interpretation, especially just now, because I just, I interpreted when I watched the film right before I did this. So that idea of control was just a super interesting facet that they kind of played around with, and it kind of just made me think. Oh, another abstract idea. Now, bear with me again. I'm gonna just focus on, like, my interpretations, kind of like what I was, like, getting out of it. Is this idea of what can grow in the dark. Those places that we choose not to look at. Those areas, whatever the case. Again, either my life, whatever. But, because we saw in the case of, like, Black Widow, she thought she dealt with a problem, or she dealt with it enough to escape from the issue, right? Because there's a huge difference from solving a problem and working through it than escaping and running away from it, right? We all have things that that we may have potentially have run away from. And so that idea that when you run away from something, or you escape from something, but it's still there, and what it can do and how it can grow, and the quickness that it can grow and fester while you turn your light in another direction. I was because I was just watching, how the Red Room now grew and changed because of how she escaped. And when Black Widow escaped, she thought she got out, she thought she did everything right, but she didn't do it as thoroughly as she probably should have done it. And that comes up time and time again. Like, Elena keeps asking her, like, why? What about the daughter? What about, like, I think she has a perfect line that she says. It's something like, the truth is really hard to tell when you admit key details. Something along those lines. Like, when you're telling the truth is hard if you're admitting key parts of what makes it still, giving me the truth. Like, yes, the chicken did cross the road, but you're missing out that it hobbled me or whatever the case may be. You like admitted certain parts of the story that were really important to like how like the actual thing occurred. It's true. Like when and I just thought about like that idea of those things that kind of like grow and fester. Like, it's when we face things head on and we work through them and we move past them and we accept those things and we reach it to the other side that we can truly, I think, move on or kind of like go forward. But when we try to run and escape and hide from it, you're only giving that darkness more power, right? If you had a flashlight and you're shining it where you want to go, and you look at something that you don't want to see up on your path, so you decide to turn your flashlight the other way, well, now, yeah, you're not seeing what's the danger is anymore, but you still got to go that direction at some point. Like, that's still a major path to cross. That's why you were headed in that way in the first place. So it was just an interesting idea to see this kind of concept of those, when we run or when we try to escape, yes, we run and yes, we escape. And of course, like, this is just an idea in one aspect, in one area. It's not going to relate to every case. Of course, a bunch of things are going to be like, well, of course, this doesn't fit into this. Of course not. This is just some idea, and it'll apply to some things just like everything else does. And like anything else, we should always try to for me, I always try to take the things that'll benefit me or that are interesting. I try to either apply them or get rid of them. They're either like good information or it's not good information. These are just thoughts and ideas on a concept of a Marvel movie, all right? So let's just to make sure. But I just couldn't stop thinking about those ideas of like when you run away from your issues or escape from your problems, that sometimes they can tend to fester or come back in bigger ways than just facing them head on. At least in the case of Black Widow, right? Like, if she would have stayed and faced all the way through, made sure the Red Room was complete, was finished, checked on Elena, done the further of steps, like, she just ran away and never looked back, and that allowed this whole organization to grow and fester. And then when she finally had to face it, she had to face it on a much bigger scale than she ever had to before, right? And in that circumstance, running away from that issue, helped her in the short term and allowed her to go on this, incredible journey. However, through that whole process and time, she could have looked back and faced that. And if she would have, maybe it wouldn't have gotten to the level that it did. You can see on some level that towards the end of the film, and especially when the Taskmaster is concerned, she feels 100% responsible for what had happened. If she just would have looked a little bit harder or done a little bit more, she could have prevented it. Now, is that the case? Who knows, right? And that's the case with anything. Just because, going back to this idea of facing and not running away, sometimes you gotta run away. Sometimes you have to escape because those are your only options, right? Like, if she didn't do that, maybe she wouldn't have become an Avenger, gained the strength and knowledge she would have been in, gained the strength and knowledge that she would have been in, and really, reached a potential to where when the Red Room became a significant issue and grew to what it had grown, she had the capacity and the ability to stop it. So, there are plenty of different ways where, like, the whole, like, running from your issues and, a bigger darkness grows. Yeah, that could be a bad thing, but in some cases, maybe you do need to run away because you need to become stronger to face it. And sometimes you need to face the issue all the way through so that it doesn't grow bigger. And that's the multi way of looking at it, and that's what I kind of took away from it is on the one hand, escaping and running can cause those issues to become bigger than what they actually are or what they were. But by running away, sometimes you need to run away or escape, because if you don't, you'll never be strong enough or have the capacity to once face that again. And then, so it was just a really interesting idea and concept that I kind of wanted to play around with. And, let me know what you thought. Maybe I'm full of malarkey. Who knows? I probably am. Black Widow, though, was awesome. It was a great Marvel film. It's also cool that they put it in the right timeline. I mean, of course they would have, but like to put it right after like Civil War, because it wasn't until I went back to Disney Plus and like checked, and I was like, where did they put this film? Okay, that makes complete sense. Especially when you see the film, I mean, you can kind of tell for yourself. But when they put it in the timeline, that's what really like solidified. Oh, okay, it's right after that. But great film. It's out now for everybody to watch who has Disney Plus. If you didn't, I don't know what happened with the whole box office streaming thing. That's a personal thing. That has nothing to do with me or has nothing. So I don't know. Not my problem. I'm sure everything is fine because everything always is, and it's not our thing to talk about, so we're not gonna. And so Black Widow, great, awesome, good job, blew me out of the water compared to like my initial thoughts. With that, I can't wait for Hawkeye. Well, folks, that's a wrap. Hopefully you took a laugh, took something. Don't take anything. Enjoy, live your life. Thank you all so much for watching. You can check out any of these videos somewhere over there. I do things, I go places, I tell funny stories. Hopefully you enjoy. Thank you so much. Until next time. Bye-bye.